Hey everyone, it has been a really intense few days in Washington after shots were fired at the White House Correspondents' dinner. My colleague and friend, Paul Hunter, he was in the ballroom when it happened and he heard those gunshots.
It's on lockdown. All we heard, we were sitting over here, you see just over my shoulder, sort of that table over there. And just as the thing was getting underway, like loud pop, 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 gunshots, and like everybody hit the floor, having no idea what was going on. Like at first, I thought it was some sort of play act thing, as a staged, macabre kind of joke.
He's still processing what he lived through and what he experienced, and offers some personal insight into, where his headspace is at, what it says about politics in America and violence, gun violence in America. It's a personal and very candid conversation, and we're glad that you're going to join us. Have a listen. It's been a few days now, Paul, but how are you?
I'm okay. Thanks for asking. It's funny how that draws you back into the moment. I mean, it was a messed up night, but I'm okay. Thanks.
We're super, super, super glad that you are, obviously. But being so close to such a harrowing event, even though as a journalist you've spent a lifetime covering them, it's got to be a bit of a different experience.
It was. I can't stop talking about it though, so this is the right place.
And we're going to hear more about that, Paul. It's been a very intense few days for you, for Washington, for the Bureau, and we are recording this episode early Tuesday afternoon, less than 3 days since the shooting at the White House Correspondents' dinner.
We know more now about the alleged shooter and some of the lead up to the shooting.
And look, I'm still kind of jacked on adrenaline from it all. So, I've had some time to digest it all, so I'm hoping for a good conversation here.
Yeah, so on today's episode, we are asking what the third alleged attempt to assassinate Donald Trump says about the state of U.S. politics. I'm Katie Simpson.
I'm Paul Hunter.
And I'm Willy Lowry, and we're CBC's Washington correspondents. You guessed it, 2 blocks from the White House.
So, Paul, it's as we said, it's been a couple of days now. Where are you in terms of processing what you lived through?
I don't know. In the last couple of days, I've been thinking about, why am I still thinking about this so much? You see a lot of stuff in this. In conflict zones and scary places. I think part of it is because this wasn't a war zone, right? It's in a room with the president. We're 2 kilometers from the White House that night. You go to a conflict zone where you expect to hear or experience these kinds of things. You're kind of psyched for it. Here you are not. We were eating salad. You know what I mean? And I think part of the experience of that night, of that moment, it depended where you were in the room, right? Mm-hmm. If you were up near where the president was and the VIPs around the front, there was a lot of chit-chat, chatter, and the clinking of cutlery and what have you. And what I later heard was they were up there, thought somebody had dropped dishes or something like that. We were at the back. We had a great view, but we were at the back, and we were near the only open doors to the whole thing. We were literally the closest table to it, and it's through these doors that the sound of gunshots came, right? At this, obviously nobody expected it, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, like I was saying in the clip that we played at the top, it was just a pop, 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 right? And it's that sound now, when that gets replayed, that takes me back to that moment. I had an interesting chat with the amazing Marie Claudet, the producer with Radio Canada here. And she was at the table with me and a couple of other Radcan people. And she and I said to her on Monday, I said, how are you? And we had this conversation, and we decided that it depended what you were doing in the moment. Is how the degree to which you processed it now. Marie was under the table, and there was a young woman there who was, I think, the daughter of another person at the table that we didn't know. And the woman was quite distraught. And so Marie was comforting her. Mm. And so when Marie hears the sound of gunshots now being replayed, she goes back to that moment, comforting a young woman. Mm. I wasn't doing that. I was hiding. I was away from the table. I couldn't fit under the table, so I was behind this concrete pillar. And all I'm thinking about is the shots and what's going to happen next. And so now when I hear the replay of the bullets, of the gunfire, I go to the. I mean, my hair is standing up on end even now because you're like, what is going to happen? It's almost. I can't believe it's hard to talk about. But when you talk about it, you go back into that moment. In the absurdity of being in a room with the president in Washington, D.C., and hearing this. I wasn't kidding in the clip when I said I thought it was a joke, like a skit or some sort of bad taste skit to open the entertainment part. But then no, I've heard enough gunshots. This is gunshots, and we were right by the doors where the sound was coming out.
I don't mean to sound extreme, and if this question is a bit too extreme, but as you're standing there behind that pillar, did you have a moment where the thought flashed before your sort of mind, like, this could be it?
Yes, that's all I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's all I'm thinking. Like once you get past that initial, what's going on here? And it's like, it's gunfire, right? And here's what you don't know. Look, my hands are shaking. You don't know if it's one shooter or a bunch of them. And if it's a bunch of them, are they all going to come through that door now? And we're right there, right? And here, you don't know, are there, if that one got close, are there others in the room with guns who are now about to pull these out? Like if there's been a security breach, how big of a breach is it? You don't know the end of the movie at this point, right? You know, are we in the line of fire? Are we about to get shot is what I'm thinking. It's you know, we report on these things. We report on mass shootings. We report on assassination attempts in other circumstances. And now it's such a, I know what people talk about now when they're reliving these things. It's crazy.
And you know, you said we don't know the end of the movie. Obviously, in the instance, we at least know the end of this chapter for now. But of course, it could have turned out very, very different.
And that's what I think when, back to the question, you know, processing this or not, right? At that moment that I get taken back to when you hear the gunshots, because we were so close to it. So loud. It was so loud. Right? You don't, you know, am I gonna die? As corny as it sounds, I'm not trying to get all, you know, pop psychology on it, but it's like, that's what you were thinking, and that's what I go back to. So then what happened was, to finish the chronology of it all, that all seems like, you know, that was an eternity. Or was it 5 seconds? Who knows? A little bit of time passed, and then the doors were all closed. I look up, Trump's gone, right? And you slowly stand up, you're looking around, and then you just see streams of Secret Service coming in from all sides. And they're going to the front tables, right, where the cabinet secretaries are. And because we're right by the main doors and right up at the front of at the aisle down the middle of the thing, they all get marched past us. And there goes Kash Patel. There goes Pete Hegseth. There goes, and we're just watching the rest of this play out like it's a surreal Hollywood movie. You know, it was hard to believe even as it was happening, and even as your hands were still shaking, and you know, chairs have been knocked over, dishes broken, and all that kind of stuff. It was. I don't know. I mean, I'm still, as you relive it, you get back in that moment, and it's hard.
Was the presence of those Secret Service agents and law enforcement streaming in, heavily clad in really military getup, was that soothing? Was that comforting? Or was that like, oh my goodness, I have to be careful what I do
No,
here?
I don't know. No, that's a good question. No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, because you're just kind of standing there. It's just all playing out in front of you, right? And then as they go by, you think, now I got to do my job, right? And I got to call the desk in Toronto and get and start telling. But you can't get a call out. It's like call failed, call failed, call failed. Hook up to WhatsApp, and then you get into the zone of being a reporter. Yeah. And I think that gets you past worrying about, you know, tactical gear in front of you and things like that. And finally, it's like, I can't try WhatsApp. You hook up to the hotel Wi-Fi. I can get out on WhatsApp. I can call the desk in Toronto. They can put me on the air. And pretty soon I was talking live on News Network, describing what little we knew. I mean, at that time, at that moment, we start to hear the shooter was dead, right? And like it turned out not to be true, of course. But because we were in lockdown, you know, even though it had just happened to us in a sense, with the sound, we didn't know what was going on outside the door. It was, you know, in the hallway out there. So it then became complicated journalistically. But then you just kick into into muscle memory, and you just describe what you're seeing and what you've experienced and stuff like that. And I think that helped focus me up after having gone through all that. But man, it was something else, I'm telling you.
Are you able to sleep yet?
4 a.m. each night since I've been waking up, and again, it sounds so corny, right? But I guess it's all the way you do process these things. And I think about the gunshots, and you think about what could have, someone got that close. If I don't know how it played out, but if the guy had dodged one way and he wasn't tackled, could he have come in? Would he have started shooting the room? This is how it happened. I have this thing that I talk about with young journalists sometimes when you're being sent into a conflict zone, that you kind of step on what I've come to call the conveyor belt of fate. And once you step on it, you're just going to be carried forward, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And you can't get off until the end of the assignment. So think hard before you say yes to a complicated assignment, right? So here, I felt a little bit on this conveyor belt of fate. By landing my hair's all standing up again, but by landing myself in that room, eating salad as it was at the time, I'm on this conveyor belt of fate that really kicked in with those gunshots, and then it ended.
I hate the conveyor belt of fate.
No,
I hate that.
It's not. It's
no,
out
but
of
it's
your
right.
hands.
No,
It's out of
you're
your
right.
hands.
You're right.
also-
That's what we do. It's what we do.
But and you alluded to it. It's so different when you make the decision to get on the plane to go cover a war.
Because you're expecting it.
Because you're expecting it, and you've got often days, if not weeks, of time to mentally prepare yourself. And literally, it's going to sound corny, but say goodbye to the people that you love in person, or when you're totally relaxed in literally the most secure room theoretically in the world, you don't have any of that time to process and to prepare.
This was my second dinner that I've gone to, White House Correspondents' Dinner. The fun of these things is going around taking pictures of all the people, the celebrities and the big shot politicians and stuff. And the big American networks have these parties that you can try to beforehand that you can crash, and they're just kind of wacky, right? And that's the kind of mood you're in. This one was a bit different because of the presence of Trump and the complicated stuff with his presence. And, all the talk in the pre-parties was, what's he going to say? Is he going to slam journalists? Are we going to see actual news here? And again, this was all part, though, of the frame of mind you were in when pop, 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 pop. And again, this can't, but it is.
In the days since the shooting, we've started to learn more about the suspect, the California man who was taken into custody, who was stopped by authorities.
They did their job.
Shortly after.
At the end, they got him. He didn't get into the room.
No, and that is what the Trump administration keeps saying. This was a security success because if, they allege that was the goal, to get in there. He had a number of targets. He wanted to go after Trump administration officials, and they stopped him from getting close. He was actually a floor above. I don't know if that was very clear in the immediate aftermath that he ran past that security checkpoint. And it's actually one floor above. There's a set of stairs, and then
very close though. I'm going to say it's not a
far away.
long distance run at that point, and that hence the sound of the
right there. In terms of what we know so far, he's now facing 3 charges, including there's 2 gun charges, and then there's 1 count of attempting to assassinate Donald Trump. His name is Cole Tomas Allen. Yeah, he had been a teacher, a tutor, a mechanical engineer. From California, extremely well educated, had expressed frustration with the Trump administration for quite some time. And we know that allegedly, according to authorities, in the minutes before he's tried to storm the ballroom, he sent some disturbed writings to family members, and family members then called police. And Paul, we've been able to see what authorities have sort of leaked to a number of American media outlets. They describe it as a manifesto. What's in that manifesto?
Well, when I read it, the first thing I thought was he seems like a normal guy, except for some of the messaging that he was doing. It's not one big blorge that you see sometimes in these things of words. It's like neatly written paragraphs, and it seems like something written by somebody who is not about to go and try and kill the president, despite the content of the words. The part that stood out for me was the administration is full of pedophiles and rapists. He didn't say Epstein, but it seems to be a clear reference to that. But and he's apologizing to his family. I'm sorry, you're going to get,
It seemed like he thought he was going to die.
I know.
That sounded
well. It's surprising
it's a
that
suicide
to be
mission
honest,
to do something like that.
These things don't usually end the way they end. They ended
with him alive.
With him
Yeah.
alive.
Yeah, I agree.
You mentioned that line, Paul, the line that is getting the most attention. It says, quote, "I am no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes." Trump was asked about that part of the manifesto during an interview that aired on 60 Minutes on Sunday night, and it just enraged Trump.
What's your reaction
Well,
to
I
that?
was waiting for you to read that because I knew you would, because you're horrible people, horrible people. Yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't rape anybody.
Oh,
I'm not a
do you think he was
pedophile.
referring to you?
Excuse me. I'm not a pedophile.
He went on to attack Norah O'Donnell. He called her a disgrace. And he sort of returned to the rhetoric that we are now familiar with when it comes to Donald Trump when he's in a situation where he's getting a question he doesn't like. When you take a step back from Saturday, the event on Saturday night is supposed to be a celebration of free speech, the First Amendment in the United States, and journalism, and the importance of journalism when it comes to protecting free speech in America. Paul, what do you make of Donald Trump launching into this attack in this moment, less than 24 hours after he's supposed to sort of be in that space?
Sorry, less than 24 hours after he went into the White House briefing room to talk about how this has brought everybody together. And didn't you journalists do well and do a good job and a nice job reporting on this, and the Democrats as well, and everybody came together in one moment. And then 24 hours later, it's the other Donald Trump that we've seen so many times. I mean, what do you make of that? I mean, I don't know. What's he really saying at any time is part of the question that gets raised there. When it's to his advantage, arguably, to say we're all in this together. When it's not to his advantage, to say you're horrible as journalists broadly, and not to mention the White House then the next day saying that the media and Democrats are part of the problem with the heated rhetoric that leads to the violence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It just goes round and round and round, and I don't know what to make of it.
We are in this kind of echo chamber where each side is blaming the other and has blamed each other repeatedly for this escalation of rhetoric, and yet neither seems capable of acknowledging that they're both guilty of, ratcheting up the words.
And there was a push not to go to this thing, right? A lot of journalists chose not to go. There's no right or wrong, right? But it was I think there was an open letter, right? And the suggestion in it was this normalizes him. And that's what I say, that was the talk beforehand, was what's he going to say? And even Trump hinted that he was going to say, well, it was famously Caroline Leavitt said that some shots would be fired.
Yeah, she was making a joke during the red carpet beforehand,
exactly.
the press secretary. There was an opportunity to go, because we got 2 tickets for CBC English language, 2 tickets for French. And you were like, I'm going to go. I want to go attend to this. I was like, I'm going to let someone else go, whoever wants to go. And I didn't, push to get a ticket because we could have had it. And it's weird. So it's not, I've been feeling a certain kind of way about events like this. It's not a Trump thing. It's not an American thing. It's Canada has a version of this as well. And it's like, my instinct is wrong. This is a work function. This is not like, there are cool things that go on. You're like, oh my goodness, there's a celebrity. Oh my goodness, usually there's a comedian or there's something, whatever.
That's the fun of it, but it's a work function.
It's a work function.
Me wrong, yeah.
I've never attended a White House Correspondents' dinner. I was supposed to go a couple of years ago. And
You've been to a parliamentary.
I hosted a
did you?
parliamentary one. By the way, journalists are not comedians. We are not funny. It was
not.
awful. Well, it wasn't awful. We were okay, but never again. Any kind of event like this doesn't have to be White House Correspondents' dinner, but when you're going to be in a room where there are going to be newsmakers and their press team, in my clutch purse, I don't know about you two with your clutch purses, I put as many business cards as I can.
Stack of business cards.
And just work the room and say,
talk about the fun you have, but no, you're working the room.
You're
there
working
for
the
CBC,
room.
and it's important for CBC to be in that
there,
scene.
make eye contact with press secretaries. You're working the room, but it's also a moment of tools down. And I just feel like we're in a difficult moment where can we have a tools down moment where we see each other as humans? I don't know. We should. We've been doing this for decades. We should be able to have. But it raises to me, well, do we look too cozy? And like it's a weird perception thing. I have a bunch of complicated feelings about it that are I'm wrong. I know that I'm wrong because I should have gone because you work a room.
I would just argue that. Not because I wanted you to be subjected to danger, but Canadians in the CBC could not have been better served by having you at the dinner than any of our other great colleagues. You were the perfect person to be there.
Well, thank you.
And thank goodness you were.
Speak about it here, but speak about it also in the immediate aftermath.
I would say it's also a reminder there's a reason there's a White House pool that follows the president around every single step the president takes outside the White House grounds.
Yeah.
We actually got a question from a listener named Jane Witherspoon in Toronto that's kind of along the same lines. She asked, why did Trump decide to come to this year's dinner when he, again, had spurned it on previous occasions? Do you have any? I actually haven't quite figured it out.
It's because it was America 250. It was the big, it's
and
the
now
big
you know
birthday
that
of
I
America.
am the least smart of the three of us.
No, he had said I think he'd posted on Truth Social when he decided to accept the invitation that he was going to go, that it was because it's the 250th anniversary of America 250, and so as part of that he would go, and that again made some controversy because Donald Trump's appearance and attendance even before he was president, it was very. There have been moments that have shaped history.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, it was the what was it? It was the White House Correspondents' Dinner where Trump was at and Obama was president, and Obama just like mocked Trump mercilessly with the video and the jokes.
What really happened in Roswell? And where are Biggie and Tupac? Say what you will about Mr. Trump. He certainly would bring some change to the White House. Let's see what we've got up there.
And then the camera kept sort of showing Trump just sitting there stoically, just listening, like not laughing along. And, who knows, but people say that was like the OG moment where he decided, no, I'm gonna run for president. It's almost like you could see the future in his face at that point. And people say that's what sparked him to run in the first place. I mean, he had thought about it, but this is the stuff that happens at these dinners.
Now, what happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, it has also changed a conversation, a very controversial and politically charged conversation about Donald Trump's plans to build a ballroom at the White House. He's using what happened to justify construction, and some of his allies in Congress, including Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, are now demanding $400 million taxpayer dollars to be used for construction of the ballroom.
President Trump said to me yesterday, we need the ballroom not just for me but for future presidents. He literally could have left his bedroom, walked out the back of the White House, and been at the ballroom. That's what needs to happen when you have 1,000 or 2,000 people gathered in today's environment. And the sooner we get the ballroom built, the more hardened it is, the better for the country. So I hope and pray that most people in the Senate after Saturday night will support this bill.
The thing is, the president will never be confined strictly to the White House grounds. He will always, or she will always, go out and travel. So I think it's a bit of a moot point.
I think it underlines that there's a means to an end here. Take advantage of it in the moment. Look, we can say we can underline this is national security. So now we can get the ballroom done. I'm trying not to say the word conspiracy theories because Katie's going to lose her mind if I do.
You can't.
I love it. I love it when we lose our minds.
It is amazing how quickly that came up and how convenient it seemed to further the ballroom project. It just, not to mention Trump at a complicated time in terms of popularity. But it's funny how these things work. And is it any wonder, not to segue from ballroom to conspiracy theories, but they are sort of tied up in a kind of way. And I haven't even mentioned guns because nobody's talking about guns. People are talking about the ballroom and other aspects of this. It's just the whole thing is a weird.
It is amazing. There hasn't been I haven't heard anyone mention a need to limit guns.
No.
A need to limit guns, or perhaps examine mental health support for people who are in mental health crisis, those kinds of things. I've seen a number of memes that are sort of like, so is the Trump administration going to pledge to pay for ballrooms at every single school in America? Because is that the solution to what the problem is right here?
Build higher
But
walls.
that's,
build,
is he going to hold every rally that he,
Well,
in that
since
ballroom,
Butler,
right?
but since
So-
Butler, he's been holding every rally behind bulletproof glass. I mean, but then again, it gets back to how big should the security perimeter be? How high should the wall be? How much bulletproof glass? It's where does it end if you don't go after the other issues, mental health, which they do talk about a lot, but also gun control, which they never talk about.
And obviously there is a long history of presidential assassination attempts in this country. In fact, one happened in the very same hotel just outside the Washington Hilton in 1981. Of course, against Ronald Reagan. He was actually struck in that incident, as well as, I believe, 3 other people.
James Brady among them,
of course, who
after whom the blue briefing room is named as a result of that.
Exactly. And I don't know if you could talk, I heard, of course, some of your reporting in the immediate aftermath. Talk to me about some of the other people in
this gets
that
back to all of
dinner
it.
who had also been touched by
This
gun
speaks
violence.
to the gun issue and the state of politics and violence in politics all at the same time. It's not. Just before we sat down for dinner, there's RFK Jr. I'll take a picture of that. Like, look, they're all here, right? Who was 14 years old in 1968 when his dad was shot and killed, right? And like, what's he thinking? You ask me what's I'm thinking. How am I processing this? There he is in the room where he would have been a target. His uncle, right?
Yeah.
John F. Kennedy. When I was I was telling you how everybody was marched. A lot of them anyway were marched out past where we were, where our table was, as we're standing there, jaws on the floor still. And there goes Steve Scalise, the Republican House Majority Leader, who in 2017, I think I did that story, was shot at a congressional baseball game. And he's limping out because he's got a permanent limp because of that shooting. And this gets into the whole nonsensicalness of that night, right? Your dad was shot and killed. Your uncle was shot and killed. You were shot and wounded, so you're limping out. And here we are in the hotel where Reagan was shot and James Brady was shot. There's a plaque out front. When we left at the end of the night, when they finally took the lockdown off, go up the escalator, you walk out the front doors, and there was this wall of police cars and ambulances and lights flashing, red, white, and blue, blah, 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 and police ushering you off, go out this way, but you got to walk that way. And you walk down past the spot where Reagan was shot in 1981. There's a little plaque on the hotel, and here we are. It to me, I got shivers again talking about that. It summed up the whole night just like that, and summed up the state of violence in the political world in this country. We haven't even mentioned the Gabby Giffords, the attack on Josh Shapiro's residence in Pennsylvania, the Nancy Pelosi's husband.
We're unquestionably in a moment of increased political violence in this country. You named the headliners, but there's also just last year in Minnesota, those 2, the House Speaker of Minnesota was shot and killed along with her husband. These, of course, Charlie Kirk, these attacks are on the left, they're on the right.
January 6th.
January 6th, of course. But here's the thing. If you look at the long arc of American history, this is not a unique period.
No.
There have always been decades, in some cases, of serious political tension, of serious political violence. Of course, this is a country that was founded by revolution, that experienced a brutal civil war. Trump always calls the presidency a dangerous job, and he's right. 4 presidents have been assassinated. And so this is, I think, part of the fabric, whether one likes it or not, of this country.
It's a reminder that navigating violence, and in this modern moment, navigating gun violence, is a core element of the American experience. And there's no one has been able to muster enough political will to actually take meaningful steps to change it, because we have the same conversation over and over and over, or we don't even have the conversation. That seems to be where we are now in in light of the fact that the answer right now seems to be, hardened security ballroom by the way, I think we should point out that the White House Correspondents Association dinner, it's a private event that's held at a private location. Do you think the White House is going to want to hold that? I don't think so. And I don't think the White House Correspondents Association should.
I would think there'd be
to your
ethical
point about
questions, right?
cozying
Because
up.
this is the White House Correspondents Association's dinner. Would there
paid
be
for
ethical
tickets, yeah.
questions if it was held in
Yeah.
the White House?
And I would say, I mean, just on the other point you were making there, Katie, and both of you really, I mean, I think a lot of the people around the world look at the United States and they shake their head like, what is going on? Like, why? But it has been going on for almost since the beginning of the country.
So as we sort of wrap up this conversation, Paul, it's only been a few days, but do you have a sense of what you think you might take away from this, and how it's affected you, and how it might affect how you cover things going forward?
I don't know, is the truth. I think my takeaway, aside from the gunshots and the sound and the feeling that I had then, my takeaway is probably going to be what we've just been talking about, which is that it has become normalized. Yeah. And this was a reminder that it can happen anywhere, at any time, no matter who's in the room, including the president. That's
you, Paul Hunter, as the reporter. You, Paul Hunter, as the human. Are you going to do something to take a breath, to take a minute away? Are you going to? Is there anything that you want to do to have a minute?
I'm all good, Kate. I mean, I mean that, and thank you for asking again. But it's you see a lot of strife to go back on this in this world, in this job.
Yeah.
And what I get out of this job when I am in places where there is strife and there is misery and there is awful stuff is by telling those, cornball alert here, but by telling the stories to people who will learn about this planet and maybe take action to help and to do things to make things better. As sort of blue skyish as that sounds, that's the aim. And that, to me, whether you're in Haiti after an earthquake or you're in some awful conflict zone where people are in desperate need, telling the stories of that, as we have here today, I think is the greatest sort of medicine that you can get when you yourself experience and you're going through it with other people, telling the stories, telling the story of Saturday night, talking about the issues. I think that helps all of us.
Well, there's one more thing that we were hoping you were going to take away. Clearly, you did not, but don't worry. Katie and I have
a
your
plan
back.
for you. So, Paul, we understand that on Saturday night that your phone ran out of battery and that it was very problematic for you. We understand. So.
Just so you know, people, I texted him immediately. He did not text me back.
There you go.
A power pack.
There you go. You can carry that. You can probably, if you need a purse that'll fit in, I can lend you one.
I want my text responded within 5 minutes.
Actually, I want that back. You have to give that back to me. That's my favorite.
I'm not letting go of this.
There we go. You have to carry one of those from now on.
It is true. But by the time the shooting happened, my battery was in the red. And I was cursing myself as I'm trying to call the desk to do some reporting. And at least I got on a couple of times before it went fully dark. So anyway, thank you for thinking of me.
Always.
All right. We're all going to take a deep breath. Maybe drink a beer.
That sounds good.
We'll go from there. So thank you. We want to thank everyone who is listening. And if you are listening to this and have a question for us or have some feedback about what you're hearing, you can send us an email to WashingtonPod. That is all one word, WashingtonPod@CBC.ca. That's WashingtonPod@CBC.ca.
Or leave a comment for us on Spotify.
And don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast app.
Paul, Willy, I hope we can have an uplifting conversation next time.
Me too. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, both of you.